I was able to get hold of one of these vintage cameras lately, and this is apparently one of the better 110 film cameras because it had a glass lens or something along those lines. But anyway, this one came with the this is actually the earlier version that came with a disposable flash bulb unit. So that's a normal cold shoe, and it will work with any modern flash guns. So when you press the shutter, it briefly closes the contact between the center, the metal bit there, and the little metal tab just under the slide holder there. When I first tried to get this to work, it wouldn't fire the flash bulb. So this is a bit hard to troubleshoot in today's times, because the battery that it's meant to use is pretty much obsolete. So VATA434, that's nowhere to be found now. PX23, there is a replacement now called SPX23, which is a mercury-free version that runs at 6 volts. That outputs 6 volts. So that's probably 4 times 1.5 volts alkaline batteries in it. This one here is not the same, but it's also 6 volts and it's 4 LR43. So this tells us there's a stack of 4 LR43 batteries in there, and that's how you get 6 volts. But crucially, this is of the same diameter, so this fits in the battery compartment perfectly fine. I'm not going to push it all the way in now. And what I've done, sorry, I should say the reason I'm making this video is it fails to fire the flash. In fact, let me just do that right now. Might as well do it. So this is how we use disposable flash bulb. So you look for one that hasn't been fired, then you can tell the ones that have been fired have got, let me just get this in focus, have got a sort of dots, black dots all over there that's visible. And this one is a new unused one. So you face that forward, and you can see in the receptacle there are 2 metal contacts there, and those 2 metal contacts will send 6 volts to one of the 4 pairs of pins. So in this case, I want to use that bulb, so I'm going to feed it in like so. Now we know the battery is installed, and I'm going to slide this into the camera. There's no film, but we can demonstrate this. So with this sort of excuse me, 110 camera, normally the film is advanced when the lever is slid, and that sort of arms the shutter as well, the shutter spring. And when you press this shutter button, the flash was meant to fire there. It did not fire. And I've checked for contact, continuity, voltage, everything seems correct. So actually, just want to take a break from the flash and just explain one more thing about 110 film camera. So when the film goes in, as you can see, there are some gears, metal gears at the bottom, and those gears rotate when the shutter slide is operated, and that's what advances the film. Okay, so now back to the flash. So I was trying to figure out what on earth was wrong. So what I did, the first thing I tried was, as I've mentioned, this isn't actually the original battery spec. So what I did was I connected this 6 volt battery directly to the flash bulb, and it did fire, and that's why this one here is like sort of got black dots there, because it's already been fired with this battery. So that confirms this battery has enough voltage and current to fire off the flash bulb. I then opened up the unit, and it's all come apart now. And let me just put the housing out of the way. Yeah, obviously it wasn't going to fire because I've already removed the capacitor. Anyway, there was a capacitor installed. So you have a look here, there's a resistor in line. The capacitor was connected there. So just to cut to the chase, what this capacitor does is, if we take a look at, we just take a look at the circuitry here. So these are the two pins that contact the flash bulb, and as you can see, this one is connected via a resistor to the positive terminal of the battery, and then the negative terminal of the battery is connected via the capacitor to this this other terminal that contacts the flash bulb. So if you ignore the resistor for now, just assume it isn't there, then what you essentially have is the flash bulb is connected, permanently connected to the battery, but there is the capacitor in the way. So imagine these three components in series, and as you know, when you try to pass DC current through a capacitor, it's going to block it. So that's the reason why the flash bulb doesn't fire the moment it's installed into the housing. And what's happening is when the shutter button is depressed, the camera kind of shorts this pin, this pin with the, sorry, I'm just having a look here. Yep, so yeah, so this connects through the housing. So this tab here touches the side of the housing, which then touches this bit here, and these other two spring contactors spring outwards. That's what gets into contact with that little tab underneath there. So anyway, what happens is when the shutter is depressed, it actually shorts, it creates a short circuit between the negative and positive terminals of the battery, yeah, which is quite interesting. So it shorts the battery out, but in the process of doing so, it also shorts the capacitor out. So now the capacitor is fully discharged, and when the capacitor is fully discharged, it allows DC current to pass through again until which point it's fully charged, and the current gets blocked. So I kind of figured that given the battery is able to fire the flash bulb straight away, the only reason for having a capacitor in here is to add some delay to the circuit, presumably because the shutter is a bit too quick and wouldn't give the flash bulb enough time to sort of ignite. So what this capacitor does is when the shutter is clicked, it discharges the capacitor, and that takes probably a few milliseconds to get energized again, and that gives the flash bulb enough time to fire. So given everything works and there's contact and continuity and all that, the only culprit left has to be the capacitor itself. So what I then did was I took a capacitor meter, as you can see here. Let's make sure you can see the reading. Yep. So if we sort of measure this, and by the way, this capacitor is rated at 600 microfarads at 6 volts. So 6 volts is the maximum voltage which is sufficient for this battery, but it doesn't mean we can't use high voltage capacitor. But the main thing is 600 microfarads. So this is an EB40 capacitor and 600 microfarads, and this is also sort of obsolete, and we can't find the exact same one nowadays. But anyway, if I hook up the test leads, right, have a look at what's being shown on the LCD display. So it says 0L, and that's because it can't detect the capacitance of this capacitor. So that immediately is good news to me, because it tells me this is at fault, and all we have to do is to replace it. So let's try that once again. Okay, so it says 0L. Right, so what I've done is managed to find some from DigiKey in the United States. So I got these ones here. Okay, it's too dark to see on the camera, so let me get the sticker that comes with it. So here we can see this is a V-shape capacitor from Austria. It's rated at 680 microfarads at 16 volts. So that's pretty close to what we need. Now, you would have noticed this is rated at 680 microfarad instead of 600. So what this will do is it's going to take even longer to fully energize, right, to fully charge up, because 680 has slightly more capacity than 600. So that means the flash bulb will be connected for even longer to the battery. So if anything, this will guarantee the flash bulb fires a lot better than the original spec capacitor. So now I'm going to solder this back in here. So I snipped the leads off, and thankfully this fits like a glove. Right, so yes, so before ending this video, yes, I just wanted to show you what the reading's supposed to be like. So we know it's rated at 680, so if I did this, you can see the meter sort of putting current through it, and it's measured it at 718,732 microfarad, so it's pretty close. You can never get exact one, so if I measure the other capacitor, let's see what we get. So it's coming at 715 microfarads, 728. So this is pretty close to what we can the best of it's the best closest replacement possible for this, because it's really impossible to find 600 microfarad Exell capacitors these days rated at this sort of voltage. There are some that are slightly too long or slightly too fat to fit in here, so we are restricted by the profile of what we need, and this is the best option. So the next video you see is when this is fully soldered in, and we'll find out whether this works or not. And if it does, I'll be very happy, because it means I can use this vintage camera with the original flash. If not, then I'll just have to use a standard flash gun with it, because this is just a standard cold shoot, and I've tested this with a normal flash and it works. Right, so see you in a bit. Okay, so I've now soldered the replacement capacitor in place, and I've tested it, and I'll do that again on camera just to make sure the value is sort of expected. So it reads 750-ish microfarads. So once again, the original one is rated at 600 microfarads at 6 volts. This one is rated at 680 at 16. Once again, voltage doesn't really matter. So let's make sure the bit inside is where this contact touches the metal strip here. Just want to make sure that has positive contact, because that's one of the most likely failure points if this doesn't work. So I'm not going to put the covers on, because we are now about to find out. Put that aside. About to find out whether or not the flash bulb will fire. Okay, so I've stuck the battery in. So actually, tell you what, let's not get too excited just yet. Let me switch the voltage measurement to DC, and I'm just going to measure across the two output terminals, like right here, these two output terminals here. Right, it's hard to do with one hand, but anyway. Sorry. Okay, so we saw a reading there. So it measures 6 volts, which is exactly what we want. But remember, I told you the capacitor in line, because it's kind of in series, is going to block DC current from coming out. So if I install this flash bulb now, I hope it won't fire straight away. Okay, so it doesn't fire. Right, so now I'm going to slide this in the camera housing, and I'm going to fire the shutter, and I really hope it works, because otherwise I'm out of ideas. Oh, that's not going to work, because that bulb is already burned, so you can see the black dots there. So that one's been used. So oops, find a good one like this one here, install it facing forward, and don't flash. Yes, okay, don't fire. There we go. So now I really hope the flash bulb fires when I depress the shutter. So slide the shutter open to prime the spring. Right, here we go. Yes, that is exactly what I was hoping for. Brilliant, brilliant. This is I'm very happy that it now works, and we can see the flash bulb is now used. Right, so the next thing is, now we know this works. I've got another unit coming in the post where the aperture slider tab is still sort of in tight, because what's happened is for some reason this one's fallen off. So that's how we adjust the camera's aperture. I know this is slightly off topic, but just want to show you. If we have a look at the lens, the camera lens on the left, we can see the aperture closing as I slide it, and you can see it opening as I slide it to the left. So that's close, open, and we need to adjust the brightness using that. So like I said, the most important thing is this works, because this camera is quite common, even though it's vintage, but none of them seem to come with this flash adapter. Right, so that's success. Thanks for watching.